Welcome, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Live by Heart Today with your hosts, Don Spiegelberg and Wendy R. Wolf. Our show begins now. Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by
Learn to play jazz piano like a pro, by a pro, with Jazz Piano Pro Essentials at jazzpianopro.com.
and wearehistorically.com, conscious human apparel. It's time for the next episode of Live by Heart
Today.
Hello, and welcome to today's Live by Heart Today show. This is show number 40, a show designed to help you navigate change, uncertainty, and the new world we found ourselves in. We'll talk a little bit about science, a little bit about how our body works, a little bit about intuition, and we'll talk a lot about transformation. I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, a posture therapist and coherence coach. We're focusing on living agreements this quarter, and today's theme is why make agreements. With me for our heart-to-heart is my co-host, Wendy R. Wolf, professional transformation facilitator. Hi, Wendy.
Hey, Dawn. I am so glad for this focus. It's going to be a great quarter to really unpack this wonderful, amazing, empowering subject. And for me, agreements, if we can become more and more conscious of our agreements and more engaged in actually actively making them and breaking them and making the agreements that we want, it really does shift me, my world, you, your world. It's amazing.
I love that you mentioned making it conscious, allowing ourselves to understand and know what our agreements are. A fairly well-known author and instructor, Jordan Peterson, talks about social agreements. He's the one who stood up against Canada making it a law to use pronouns, particularly. And while he doesn't disagree with using pronouns, he disagrees with it becoming law, right? It's sort of an interesting distinction, but he talks about the agreements that we have with each other in society. And we take for granted that we have agreements. When I go to the grocery store, everyone in the grocery store agrees they're going to take things off the shelf and then pay for them when they leave.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's an agreement that we have. And of course, there are some people who don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are laws and things set in place about not agreeing with that.
Yeah.
But when we look, there are agreements we live with everywhere.
Yes. And it's turtles all the way down. Like, it's just like we can keep looking. And we were talking before we started about the alphabet and how that there's an alphabet and that the letter sounds are this and words are like that and spellings like this. I mean, it just goes layer after layer, and we're baptized in this as we come into this world. We don't know how to see and hear. We have to figure it out, and we figure it out through agreements of our culture.
Mm-hmm. I have a great and yet terrible example with regard to this. I had mentioned that I was speaking with a horse trainer and the owner of a horse, and we were discussing health, this horse's health and what to do about it to keep it in good health and maintaining its health. And at the end, I mentioned to the owner that she was being really cavalier about it. And so in my mind, right, I used exactly the wrong word. And for me, cavalier meant being a part of a group. And someone in the cavalry rides one horse, right? And they all do it together and they take care of that one horse. And they do it even when their lives are in danger, right? Like, but that's not what the word means. So there was a huge misunderstanding. And the woman was completely offended, but didn't tell me about it. I found out about it through the horse trainer, because my concept of a word, because of its root, was not what the word meant at all. So I made a huge mistake.
Yeah. So you were saying you're being a wonderful horse caregiver, and the opposite. Oh, you don't. You're just being laissez-faire about it. So funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And so I mean, so much is built on this, and we see it when we go to other cultures. We see it when we speak to people who speak, different languages. I mean, it starts to become, the water we swim in starts to become obvious, but until then we're just not noticing. This is how it is. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's tremendously frustrating. Something I'm noticing as I'm talking about this is when we talk to people, like what you just said, when we talk to people and we miss, like there's something about the assumptions, the agreements that are not hitting. And when we don't talk about that, it makes life really painful. It makes life not work.
Yeah, it doesn't work at all. And it becomes troublesome. And then with more trouble like that, it becomes suffering.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of the simple things that we take for granted. So I was raised going to church, and we started looking at churches around the Pacific Northwest. And the people here in the Protestant churches, they raise their hands up. And that's not what I'm accustomed to. So in church, people would stand, but they didn't raise their hands up. So that's really different.
What
And
flavor? What flavor did you go to in when you were on the other side of the country?
uh, it was Baptist.
Yeah. So that's a more mainline kind of denomination. And then where did you go in the Pacific Northwest?
The churches don't name their church according to what they believe, so I don't know.
Yes, and that's what I'm pointing to. Like, so if you went to a more mainline denomination, they're probably not going to raise their hands.
Ah,
But you went
interesting.
to a more probably charismatic, at least a charismatic influenced, a more assemblies kind of
Right,
church.
and that wasn't in their names. And we've
Right.
been to several different ones
Yeah.
where they're doing that.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm thinking, oh, is this a Pacific Northwest thing? Anyway, the point I'm making is someone raising their hands an uncomfortable experience for me that will then cause me to not return to that church, right?
Oh,
So
wow.
that's how important it is to understand the agreements. Because when I was growing up, the agreement was that we did not raise our hand. Like that wasn't even an option. No one thought of it. I never saw anybody really do it. I heard about it when I was older, but I'd never seen it. And here I'm in a situation where people are raising their hands up, and not just one, but two, and their hands are opened in ways that I wasn't raised with. And so is that enough for me to no longer go to those churches? Is it a big deal to me? It turns out it's not. Right? Not everybody's doing it. Some people do it, but that
Yeah.
doesn't change what's important to me. And yet it could.
Yeah, it could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Because people would be like, that's weird.
people doing things differently, it can be uncomfortable. And here's something Jordan Peterson mentions, and that is, if we're walking down the street, there are particular behaviors that we're in tune with. right? So other people walking down the street, and we don't notice anything out of the ordinary. However, if someone is walking down the street and they're stumbling, right? Then that's unusual. And what do? We cross to the other side. So these agreements are based in important things like safety, uh, right? Like, I don't know what's going on with this person who's stumbling, but I'm going to maintain my safety by going over here.
And it works the other way too. When I buzzed my hair, when I turned 50, I didn't change anything about me. I didn't know I was different most of the time, but I was dressing the same, acting the same, talking the same, going the same places. But what I noticed is that everybody, like I was in Seattle, so everybody was fine, except people who are more outside on the edges, people who are more pushing the edges of our society in one way or another. All of a sudden, I showed up for them. All of a sudden, they were paying attention to me and they hadn't been. It was really fascinating. And I lived with that buzz for, I don't know, like 2.5 years or something. And it was really fascinating because I wasn't doing anything differently except for my hair.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, these people were like, "Oh, you're like us," and being friendly with me,
Mm-hmm.
and acknowledging my presence and nodding or whatever. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's just like that was an agreement. It's like, "Oh, you're breaking the social agreements. You're one of us."
Right. And along the same lines, women who lose their hair from cancer, they're suddenly different.
Yeah, well, that's what some people in my family thought. They were scared that I had cancer and weren't telling them. And that's what it
Right?
meant for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are so many meanings and so many agreements that are really not clear, except they're clear up here. We think they're clear. And unless someone says to you, Wendy, is your health okay? Your
Right.
hair is really short now. Is everything all right with you?
Your hair
Right?
is not there anymore. What are you doing?
Yeah. And are they willing to ask? See, the people who aren't willing to ask, then they don't know. And then there's, aversion. They avoid
Right.
you or they assume.
Right. And that's back to the original thing. Can we, like, the beautiful part with agreements, if we're not understanding, if we can communicate, it can change everything. Like in that original thing, if somebody said, "You think I'm being cavalier?" Like it would have changed the whole dance.
Right.
And, if somebody in my family said, "Do you have cancer?" Or, whatever, even though I didn't, it makes such a difference. And that's some of the consciousness. We start to get conscious. It's like, oh, I'm making this mean this. What does it really mean?
Yes. Yes, because in that moment when I used the completely wrong word, if she had said, "Oh, you're saying I'm being cavalier?" What if she had said something like, "What makes you say that?" Then I would have explained, "Oh, because you're paying so much attention and you're so dedicated to this horse." And she'd say, "Oh, that's not being cavalier." Right?
Yes, it's great. Yeah. And so for this conversation today, it's the jumping board for the next next few months of us being able to have a conversation between us and hopefully lots of other people about what are we agreeing to and where can we change where we want to and where do we feel like we can't and how do we dance this life that seems like it's concrete and I don't believe it is.
Mhm. The it makes me think about the agreements we have with the people we live with. And so when you bring children into a relationship, agreements often need to be renegotiated.
Yeah.
Because it's so completely different. And you don't always know the agreements the other person has until that little baby is brought home. And then sometimes the agreements are dramatically different. And
Yes.
you don't expect the agreements to change in some ways, and sometimes they do.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of assumptions and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of this is how we do it. That's just in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love the ability to make agreements and renegotiate agreements and realize that the situation under which you made an agreement may not be the current situation you're in. And so how do you renegotiate that? How do you decide to keep your agreement or not?
Yes. That's another thing we were talking about before this is the whole idea of integrity or, being our word or keeping our agreements. I believe we'll have a whole show about it. But it's a
Mm-hmm.
really fascinating conversation about how do we make our lives work? How do we make our relationships work? How do we get things done in the world by we say we're going to do something and we do it, or we say we need to shift the agreement. I mean, it can be pretty straightforward, but it has a lot of emotion on it for a lot of people.
It does, and it can be wedges in between us. It can be very, very difficult.
Hmm. Yeah. And there's a lot of people who talk about like, you say you're going to get together at 2 o'clock for coffee. And there's a lot of people who are like, well, I'm on X time, whatever the identity is of the culture. I'm on X time so that, you can just expect that I'm going to be there at 5 after or 10 after or 15 after, or,
Mm,
like it had, like, and that's fine if we understand the agreement. Oh, this
right.
person is always going to be 5 minutes late. This person is always going to be 15 minutes late. This person is going to be 10 minutes early. It really helps to explicate it so that we can be comfortable, because otherwise it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. My fencing teacher, he would always say, if you said you're going to be here at 2, you be here at 2. You didn't say 11:50 and you didn't say 2:10. You said 2. And then I learned that if you would say 2-ish, then you had room before or after, right? But if
Mm-hmm.
you say 2, it better be 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's good. We were in our early 20s, so it's good to have things create boundaries and build character, and build definitions so that we understand what our agreements are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that whole time thing, I mean, I'm still working it. But I've come so far, and there's so many layers to it. Like for me, there's very often, should I look at the where I have resistance?
Mm,
And also I had this concept that like things don't take as long as they actually take, and I was talking to a kind of guy who was kind of coaching me about this, like as a friend. And because he was helping me just figure it out. This was a long time ago, like 23 years ago or something. And I'm like, well, that only takes 5 minutes. He's like, Wendy, he looks me in the eyes, like, stay with me. He's like, nothing takes 5 minutes. Right? Because I think I just and then I'll be there on time. And it's like, well, that actually doesn't work. And I keep having to learn, I keep having to learn it. And then the other thing that I learned, which was so great, is like just to, put in breakdown time, put in, shoot to be there 10 minutes early. I don't have to go in, but, put down breakdown time, because for me personally, transitions, oh my gosh, transitions take so much time.
mm-hmm.
So anyway, the point is though, like if I actually relate to what I say I'm going to do, like I actually like really am going to do it, then I need to manage it. I need to figure it out. I need to think through it. I need to have systems that hold that in place. Because if I finish one conversation, one interaction at 2, and I need to start one at 2, that doesn't work because I need, water in, water out. I need to move my body a little. I need to make this quick text, respond to, like this stuff that has to happen between. So anyway, those are my thoughts about that.
Beautiful thoughts. Let's take a short break.
Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I instruct an online video course that teaches anyone how to play jazz piano like a pro with my proven step-by-step system that makes it simple to learn. Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com. I'll teach you everything you need to know.
Welcome back to the Live by Heart Today show. We're talking about agreements and why we make agreements, and in particular, the systems and frameworks that we can leverage in order to keep our agreements. And there are times in our lives when we push against systems and frameworks. We resist them. We don't want to have them. But it turns out that they actually benefit us when we use them well, when we put them in place and allow them to do their job without resisting them. Because if you're resisting it, why keep it, right? You can change it. I think that gets missed.
Yeah.
We try frameworks on like a shirt. Does this shirt fit? Oh no, the sleeves don't work very well. I can't move my arms the way I need to. Choose a different shirt.
Right. Oh, that's really good. It's really good, Dawn. And yeah, I have to do the usual Wendy thing and say, I hate systems and frameworks, but right.
I was waiting for that.
A part of me does, but I am learning so much that they actually serve me so well. Yeah, I resist them, but I resist them and they work. It works for us to say at X time, we're going to get together and talk about this show and do it. If we don't do that, it'll never happen. I mean,
That's true. And I want to mention that we can get together and talk about living by heart. But if we never actually practice and do it, then it's just a mental exercise. And our thoughts aren't living by heart. Thinking is not living by heart.
That's so awesome, Dawn. Yes. And so these structures, these putting things into existence, these frameworks, they take the intention and make it, bring it into the world. And it reminds me of our whole last season.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of frameworks and structures in relation to laundry. I talk about laundry a lot. And when you provide a laundry basket for dirty clothes to go in, right? And then you wash those clothes and then you use that basket to carry the clean, because nothing is really that dirty that it's going to soil the basket, right? So it doesn't matter what stage the clothes are in, but it's a holder. So it's a framework.
Yes.
However, if after having washed and dried the laundry, you never take it out of the basket and put it in a drawer, then the dirty laundry and the clean laundry gets mixed together and the framework doesn't work any longer.
Yeah.
So you can have a framework that doesn't work for you, or you can have a framework that you're not using in the way in which it was designed. And in both situations, the outcome is not optimal. So you get to decide how to change the framework, which is a brilliant conversation to have, considering now is the time when people are making resolutions or people are resisting resolutions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really love that illustration. It's excellent. And it reminds me, like in my work as a soul healer, as helping people transform, um, it really matters what agreements we have,
Mm-hmm.
and bringing to consciousness a lot of agreements that we don't know that we have. And
Yes.
they tend to work really well, those unconscious ones. We just operate in them. We don't even notice. There's no resistance. We just do it.
Yes.
And so bringing that up into consciousness is extraordinarily helpful. And then those and the ones that we consciously hold, just really examining what works for us, being scientists of the soul, scientists of our life. What works and doesn't work? What results do we want? What results we're getting? These are really awesome questions. And it's all really, you can see it in the paradigm of agreements. I'm pretty excited about what this, I always have trouble with what we're calling it, this quarter, this marking period. What are we calling it? Season.
This
season
season, this quarter is about
Mhm.
living agreements. And before we close out today's show, I want to mention one interesting thing. As a posture therapist, I'm licensed, and there are lots of people who carry the same license that I have. So I'm licensed to perform massage therapy, which is to touch people's bodies. And my expertise is in alignment.
Yes.
And what's fascinating is that my structure, the framework I learned after touching lots and lots of different people, is that they are able to change themselves. So no matter how much manipulation of a muscle I do, I can't cause it to relax. And massage is designed to relax, right?
Yes.
And no matter what I do to a muscle, I can't get it to relax unless there's an agreement from the other person that they will relax that muscle.
Yes.
So there's lots of tricks, right? You can stretch it, you can squeeze it, you can shorten it. There's a lot of things to do to try to get the agreement for that muscle to release. But the truth is, it's the person's responsibility to release it.
Yes.
And very few people understand that. So they go to body workers and they say, okay, relax me, right? Go ahead, do your magic and relax me. And you know, two things are going on there. One, they don't know that they're responsible to relax. And so I tell people, I can give my best massage, which I will. And if you leave still tense, it's not because I did something wrong, right? So then they start thinking, really? What's going on there? And then the second thing to understand is, from our perspective, we can provide a great service, and it is our, I'll use the word obligation, to always be our best.
Yeah.
And we cannot guarantee the outcome.
I know. We've had this conversation a lot, right? I can't
Yeah.
make promises because they have to do it.
Yeah. So if somebody leaves and they aren't relaxed, maybe they just can't. Maybe they're not ready, or maybe the temperature in your room was wrong for them, whatever it is, right? But it's not the practitioner. Although we need to be responsible and make the agreements about what we can control, right? I will always provide you with clean sheets and a warm room, and everything cleaned after the last person, because in coronavirus killed, and right, confidentiality, right? These are all the things I can agree to and I will agree to, but I will not agree to fix you, because
it can happen.
That's right. It's not my responsibility to fix you. It's your responsibility.
Completely your responsibility. Yeah. And it's so funny. It reminds me of my favorite Christian teacher. He used to say, God, the way he would say it is, God can speak through a cereal box, which means like if the message is coming through, you could read it in the Bible, you could read it in a cool book, a friend could tell you, some donkey could talk. The message is coming, and it's going to keep coming. Am I able to hear it? That's the real question. Am I really able? And what I was noticing while you were talking is what I'm noticing for myself, and so much with people lately, is they might relax on this level, but then the level beyond underneath is like, rah,
Yes.
right? And it's like a matter of, for ourselves, to start becoming more conscious about that and allowing that peace, that relaxation, to marinate deeper and deeper and deeper within.
Ooh, I love this conversation because now we're talking about physiology, but we have to close. So we'll pick it up next time about relaxing deeper and deeper, and we'll talk more about living agreements.
Hooray.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for being with me today. And thanks to everyone else for watching today's show. We would like to hear from you. So if our conversation spoke with you, please let us know what's on your heart by leaving a comment below. For more information about how you can live by heart, please go to livebyhearttoday.com. Also, like and follow this page, and be sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our programs. We're here every Thursday at 4:44 Pacific time. That's it. From our heart to yours. We're creating a better tomorrow because we live by heart today.
And that concludes this portion of
Live by Heart Today!
Thank you for watching. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Shop online at wearehistorically.com. Conscious Human Apparel.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I'll teach you everything you need to know about playing jazz piano like a pro with my 12-week online video course and downloadable guidebook, Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com.
Have a happy